Hello, and welcome to today's deep dive into the critical life lessons of your 30s. This decade marks a fascinating transition in human development, moving from the exploratory phase of your 20s into what researchers call the career and care crunch stage. I'm going to share evidence-based insights that can transform how you navigate this pivotal decade. Your 30s aren't just another birthday milestone. Developmental psychology shows this period represents a unique consolidation phase where your choices significantly impact your long-term trajectory. Whether you've just entered your 30s or are approaching them, the research-backed lessons we'll explore today will help you maximize this transformative decade. Let's start with perhaps the most consequential area: financial responsibility. Longitudinal studies demonstrate that financial habits formed in your 30s can determine your financial security for decades to come. The power of compound interest makes this decade critical. Delaying retirement savings until your 40s can reduce your potential wealth by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Unlike your 20s, which might have been characterized by experiential spending, your 30s demand strategic financial planning. Research shows that individuals who implement budgeting systems in their 30s report significantly lower financial stress by their 40s. This doesn't mean eliminating all discretionary spending, but rather implementing what financial psychologists call values-based budgeting, aligning your spending with your core priorities. Employment research also indicates that your 30s present a prime opportunity for career specialization. Rather than pursuing multiple skills simultaneously, focusing on developing expertise in one or two areas yields substantially higher income potential. The Harvard study of adult development confirms that career satisfaction correlates strongly with alignment between work and personal values, suggesting financial decisions should complement passion-driven choices rather than replace them. Your physical body undergoes subtle but significant changes in your 30s. Medical research demonstrates that metabolic rates begin declining approximately 2 to 3% per decade after age 30. This biological reality makes preventive health measures non-negotiable. Nutritional studies reveal that dietary habits solidified in your 30s can prevent chronic conditions later in life. Prioritize whole foods, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, while minimizing processed alternatives. Exercise physiologists recommend establishing consistent fitness routines now, as research shows that muscle mass begins declining approximately 3 to 5% per decade starting in your 30s. Mental health requires equal attention. Neuroscience research indicates that chronic stress in your 30s can alter brain structure and function. Implement evidence-based stress management techniques like mindfulness meditation, which studies show can reduce cortisol levels by up to 20%. Work-life boundaries become essential during this stage, as psychological research identifies this decade as particularly vulnerable to burnout due to competing demands. Sleep quality emerges as another critical factor. Studies show that adults in their 30s who consistently achieve 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep demonstrate better cognitive function, emotional regulation, and even weight management compared to their sleep-deprived counterparts. Your social landscape typically transforms dramatically during your 30s. Sociological research indicates that while your 20s might have featured expansive but relatively shallow social networks, your 30s benefit from cultivating fewer but deeper connections. The landmark Harvard study found that relationship quality, not wealth, fame, or achievement, predicted happiness and longevity most reliably. Specifically, participants with strong social connections showed better physical health metrics and lower rates of cognitive decline as they aged. Communication patterns also evolve in your 30s. Developmental psychologists note that emotional intelligence typically peaks during this decade, enabling more nuanced interpersonal interactions. Research shows that adults in their 30s who practice selective vulnerability, sharing appropriate personal information with trusted individuals, report more satisfying relationships than those who overshare indiscriminately or remain completely guarded. For those navigating romantic relationships, relationship science offers clear guidance. Couples who establish fair division of household and emotional labor in their 30s report significantly higher relationship satisfaction in subsequent decades. This becomes particularly important during what researchers call the sandwich generation phase, where adults simultaneously manage childcare and aging parent responsibilities. Contrary to popular belief, your 30s offer an optimal window for calculated professional risks. Labor market research indicates that employers view risk-taking more favorably in 30-somethings than in older workers, while also valuing the experience that 30-somethings have over younger employees. Career psychologists identify your 30s as the prime decade for what they call strategic pivoting, making intentional career moves that leverage accumulated experience while pursuing greater purpose alignment. Organizational studies show that professionals who make purposeful pivots in their 30s report higher career satisfaction by their 40s compared to those who remain in misaligned roles. Leadership research reveals that your 30s present ideal conditions for developing management capabilities. The combination of technical expertise from your 20s coupled with emerging emotional intelligence creates what leadership scholars call the credibility sweet spot, where you're experienced enough to lead but adaptable enough to learn new approaches. Psychological research demonstrates that your 30s typically bring heightened self-awareness and emotional regulation capabilities. Neuroimaging studies show that the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and impulse control, reaches full maturation by your mid-30s, enabling more balanced emotional responses. Self-acceptance emerges as a defining psychological task of this decade. Studies show that adults who practice self-compassion report lower rates of anxiety and depression while maintaining high performance standards. This isn't about lowering expectations, but rather addressing perfectionistic tendencies that research links to psychological distress. Forgiveness, both of others and yourself, becomes a powerful tool for emotional well-being. Psychological studies consistently demonstrate that holding grudges activates stress response systems, while forgiveness correlates with lower blood pressure and reduced anxiety. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but rather freeing yourself from its emotional burden. Developmental psychology frames your 30s as a period of simultaneous expansion and contraction. You're likely expanding professional responsibilities and possibly family commitments, while simultaneously narrowing social circles and focusing interests. Research identifies several common stressors during this decade: career plateaus, relationship transitions, health concerns of aging parents, and possibly your own emerging health issues. Studies show that adults who develop proactive coping strategies, anticipating challenges rather than merely reacting to them, demonstrate greater resilience across these domains. The concept of time poverty becomes particularly relevant in your 30s. Research indicates that perceived time scarcity peaks during this decade due to competing demands. Time management experts recommend implementing value-based time allocation, deliberately scheduling activities that align with core values rather than reactively filling time. By your 30s, you've accumulated substantial life experience that research shows can be strategically leveraged. Cognitive psychologists note that experiential learning, reflecting on past experiences to inform future decisions, becomes more sophisticated during this decade. Studies on adult development reveal that your 30s represent an ideal window for cultivating what psychologists call generativity, contributing to future generations through mentoring, creating, or nurturing. Research consistently links generativity to psychological well-being and sense of purpose. Your relationship with material possessions often transforms during this decade. Consumer psychology research shows that adults in their 30s increasingly prioritize experiences over acquisitions, recognizing that experiential purchases yield greater and more sustained happiness than material ones. As we conclude this evidence-based exploration of life lessons in your 30s, let's synthesize the key insights that research offers. First, treat your financial foundation with intentionality. Establishing saving habits, reducing debt, and aligning spending with values creates freedom for meaningful pursuits. Second, proactively protect your physical and mental health. The preventive measures you implement now yield exponential benefits later. Third, invest deeply in fewer, higher quality relationships while establishing clear boundaries with energy-draining connections. Fourth, approach your career with strategic focus, developing specialized expertise while remaining open to purposeful pivots. Fifth, cultivate emotional resilience through self-acceptance, forgiveness, and stress management techniques that research validates. Finally, leverage your accumulated experiences to contribute meaningfully to areas aligned with your values. The research is clear. Your 30s aren't about having everything figured out. Rather, this decade rewards those who implement thoughtful systems, align actions with values, and maintain adaptability amid changing circumstances. By applying those evidence-based lessons, you can transform your 30s from a period of uncertainty into a decade of purposeful growth and lasting fulfillment. Thank you for joining me for this research-based exploration. If you found these insights valuable, please subscribe for more evidence-based content on navigating life's key transitions.